Well, we've seen now the seals being opened. The seventh seal's been opened now. We've went through the four horsemen of the apocalypse. We had half an hour silence, and now we're getting ready to open and see our first trumpet. So stay tuned.
Holy Spirit, come and refresh me. Holy Spirit, come.
Welcome to Through the Bible in 5 Minutes. I'm your host, Brad Keeney. And today we're going to be looking at the first trumpet. So boy, this is getting very exciting here and very interesting. We looked at some of the things we've seen. We've worked our way up to the point where we're at now. Again, we try to keep these short and simple, painless, as we call it. And but with these, we've been including the study of prophecy of Christ's first coming, because again, we're looking for his second coming, and that's what we're studying. So let's look at another aspect of prophecy here, and that is that there's a covenant fulfillment with his coming, and he was a light to the Jews and the Gentiles. So let's look at that now. We see that in Isaiah 42 verse 6. And the paraphrase we have here is, I will keep you and I will make you to be a covenant for a people and a light for the Gentiles. In Isaiah 49 6 we see, I will also make you a light for the Gentiles, that you may bring my salvation to the ends of the earth. So how was this fulfilled? Well, let's take a look at that. In Luke chapter 2 verses 25 through 32, we kind of have a summary here of that, where it says, a light for revelation to the Gentiles, and for glory to your people Israel. And also in Acts 26, verse 23, we see that the Christ would suffer, and as the first to rise from the dead, would proclaim a light to his own people and to the Gentiles. So we kind of see how that was fulfilled again. Now let's look at the prophecy we have today, as we're seeing the first trumpet sounding. And that actually is Revelation chapter 8, verse 7. Let's go there now. The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed, mingled with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. And a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Now today I want to take a little more look at this from a standpoint of the different perspectives. Remember, we focus on futurists, but even the futurists don't all agree on what this means. So we'll talk about a couple of them and look at these things, although futurists tend to be more literal. But first, let's look at what the historists have to say about this. Those people look at this being more related to history. They tend to think the hail is symbol of God's judgment, like it was on Egypt, which makes sense. And this is on the West Roman Empire, which actually fell in 476. So the trees and grass symbolize bloodshed and destruction. That's how they tend to see it, although not everyone agrees again on these things. But that's kind of a general overview to give you an idea what a historist would think. Now, if you're a preterist, you tend to look at this more like it symbolizes one of the disasters that led to Jerusalem's eventual destruction in 70 AD. The trees and the grass again symbolize people and their plight. So that's kind of the preterists, the way they look at it. Now, if you're an idealist, and what this symbolizes here, they tend to think, and it's true, trumpets often are warnings, like there was a call to battle and call to gathering with the trumpet. So I don't disagree with any of these views. I just think that there's more than just the one view to look at. You can learn from more things from looking at it from different perspectives, and then I believe in the futurist view as well. But along with that, warning great judgment to come is what they're thinking here in an idealistic standpoint, which that makes sense again. Like I said, I think something's to be gathered or gotten from all the views. But the futurists tend to look at this differently again. They usually look fairly literally. And for example, if we were going to look at what Walter Scott says, he says the 1/3 is a confederation of nations, and the trees are more the great men and the grass is more the common men. That's one futurist view. Hal Lindsey, for example, talks about nuclear weapons being things that are used in this, and that the grass could include grain and crops and things. And again, more literally, this may just be exactly what it says as we read the passage. We don't know for sure, and that's one of the things we have to keep in mind, is only God knows. And again, we're looking at the prophecies of Jesus' first coming because nobody had it all figured out in his first coming till after it was done. So because of that reason, we're looking at that and keeping our minds open, but it does say there's a blessing associated with studying this and keeping this, so we'll do our best. And that's what we're trying to do here on Through the Bible in 5 minutes. But I want to remind you again, it's so important. The gospel is what's the most important. Now, we've talked about the trumpets and the bowls and their similarities, and I'll try to remember to post when I put this on YouTube, the video I did, but I want to tell you, in the playlists, if you go, and there's discussion topics, and in the discussion topics there's a trumpets and bowls similarities discussion. I'm not saying they're the same things, but they do seem to be related in some way. So look at that, take a look, pray about it, see what you think, because that might help you here also. And there's also a gospel message there. And again, remember, that is what's most important, because God's not going to dump out his wrath on his people. I don't believe so. Some futurists believe that we may be here for a while and he won't rapture us until the end. I'm a pre-wrath person myself. I believe he'll take us out of here before he dumps out his wrath, whenever that may be. I don't know. But I could be wrong. Again, we look back to Jesus' first coming, and John the Baptist didn't even have it all figured out. And he was part of the welcoming committee. So anyway, just remember, the gospel's important. Get a relationship with Jesus. It is a personal relationship. But also, if you've accepted Christ as your Lord and Savior, it's not an event. It's a way of life, and it's a friendship. You cultivate that through reading the Word, through going to a Bible-believing church. Be very careful, a Bible-believing church. Getting Bible-believing friends. And I pray that someone will come alongside you and disciple you, help you go through the Word. And there are some wonderful study Bibles out there with some phenomenal notes. I learned a ton from study Bibles and reading through the Bible that way. So anyway, I want to encourage you in all those things. So we'll look forward to seeing you next time on Through the Bible in 5 minutes. God bless.